Hi, are there any self-learners with me today? If so, I believe you're going to relate to what I'm going to discuss. The challenges of being a self-learner when it comes to language learning, of course. If you're considering taking up a new language, but on your own, without the teacher's help, stay with me. I hope once you've listened to this podcast, you will realize it is possible to achieve your goal and then the level of language you dream of while being a self-learner. And treat this podcast as a kind of motivation boost if you're struggling as a self-learner or if you're in doubt whether learning on your own makes any sense. As a self-learner myself, I am aware of the pros and cons that come together with learning on your own. The challenges that you must face may seem overwhelming, but if you have no resources such as time or money to learn with a teacher, it shouldn't deter you from learning the language. My experience in short: English, years of school education and then studying linguistics. Arabic, 3 years of studying linguistics. German, a short and unsuccessful attempt to refresh the knowledge from school years while being in my 20s. And finally, Spanish, I've been learning for around 2 years, and this is a pure experience of a self-learner. So let's start with the challenges and disadvantages. I want to stress at this point, like the thing that we always must remember, that even if you have a teacher, you must focus and practice a lot on your own, as I did while studying Arabic at the university. I mentioned I studied English at the university as well, but my level of English was quite advanced at that point, so I will not use it as an example. So coming back to the Arabic language, although we had academic teachers, each class was once a week, so the rest was up to us. I could make a progress slower or faster or not at all, depending on how much time I devoted to language learning. Teachers, academic teachers, professors are people who should show us the way and the methods how to learn. They should convey the knowledge, give us resources, and alternatively, a pinch of motivation to stay persistent in the process. What we're going to do with it and how we're going to spend the remaining time out of 24 hours we don't spend with the teacher is up to us. This is what learning is about, in my humble opinion. And I'm not playing down the role of the teacher here, which is essential. I'm a teacher myself, so I know how big the role is. However, even with a dream teacher, you might not achieve the results you want to achieve. And learning the language and becoming fluent is mostly your responsibility as a student, and the progress is up to you. So the teacher knows what is essential, what are the best methods, course books, dictionaries, and maybe internet resources, which a beginning language learner might have no idea about. So this is very crucial about the teacher's role. And the teacher knows the steps, which grammar points and vocabulary sets you should study at first, and then second, and so on and so forth. And how much students should expect of themselves at a particular point. Because sometimes you expect and demand too much, by the way. And from my viewpoint as a teacher, it is nice to see my students setting high goals and being very demanding towards themselves. But remember, don't bite off more than you can chew. And don't set unrealistic goals. So, summing up, the teacher as a kind of a guide is important. Another crucial role, a teacher maybe your motivator who will build up your confidence and remind you why you're learning in moments of doubt. What's more, when you have a regular class every week, it's easier to stay persistent and not give up. And when you promise just to yourself to get round to learning, it might be more difficult to learn regularly. Might be. It's not a rule. However, like in other fields of life, people generally stick to their resolutions and try to reach their goals when other parties are involved, such as teachers, dietitians, personal trainers, family or friends who know about your goals. So if you are a self-learner, maybe just tell it to somebody that you are learning and ask them to check up on you from time to time. It can be kind of a motivator. And next one, when you self-study and you come across a dialect, idiomatic expression or slang or some neologisms, you may get extremely confused. In situations like that, a teacher is a good source of knowledge to explain it to you if you can't find it in dictionaries, which may sometimes occur with newly coined expressions. Or if you struggle with some grammar point, a teacher may be the person who will explain it to you in a very logical way, and maybe in a way that a YouTube source cannot. Or you just simply want to make sure if you can express something this way or another, or have somebody correct your mistakes. So we are somehow missing these points when we are self-learners, and we must take care of them on our own. So nevertheless, I mentioned at the beginning, it is not impossible not to learn the language on your own, and the fact we don't have regular classes should not be the reason for not trying. Studying a language is a long and complex process which demands patience and effort. And effort you must put yourself, regardless of working with a teacher or just self-studying. As I mentioned, on average, we spend with teachers around 2 hours per week. The remaining time is up to us to arrange and spend on self-studying, revising and practicing. And on the other hand, it might turn out to be easier to organize your time and manage other duties when you learn on your own rather than with a teacher or in a group. Also, by looking for answers, grammar rules, or vocabulary on your own, you are actually studying. I know it may be arduous and mundane at times, but by double-checking everything and finding the answers on your own, you may learn faster, and of course, you'll be super proud of yourself. I also mentioned the resources and materials. Of course, the teacher may be a great help here. However, you may find a teacher who will suggest resources you don't like yourself, so you're gonna look for them on your own anyway. And come on, we live in the 21st century with plenty of language channels on YouTube, teachers of Instagram, language podcasts, and books or ebooks available offline and online. Probably you'll find something that meets your expectations and level. So to sum up, if you can find inner motivation, surround yourself with good resources, practice regularly, have like alternatives to the things that we have when we learn with the teacher, such as correcting our mistakes or checking up on our progress, you can reach your goal if you have these key points, these features. And I'm probably speaking from a different perspective than most of the listeners here, since I am a teacher myself. So I know the process of learning and teaching the language, and I know how it should be done. And I have the idea of good online resources and books. So let's say that's my advantage of being a self-learner, but the rest is the same. I need to constantly motivate myself, stay persistent, and look for the answers by myself and explain grammar rules to myself and try to correct myself. And I have just thought of self-learners I know who at some point decided to continue learning with a teacher, so with me. And you know what? I've always been impressed by the skills. So there are also a proof that, and kind of a living example, that you may also achieve the success you want. And one last comment, and a crucial factor in my view, is the sparkle, the chemistry between the teacher and the student. If you're on the same wavelengths or simply like each other, that's perfect. But if you don't feel like cooperating with the teacher, why should you so? Don't let anyone discourage you from learning the language, and it would be the worst if it was the teacher who did it. And I don't know if it will be a bit far-fetched, what I'm gonna say, but I thought about the metaphor. So you want to surround yourself with cool people, real friends, and you wait for the right person to have a relationship with. And it's better to wait for the right people in our life that surround ourselves or settle for shitty ones. So I'd rather stay the self-learner than have a shitty teacher. So with this sophisticated and worth a damn metaphor, I am finishing this podcast. It was Kasia speaking to you. Cheer up. Until next time. Bye.